Hello and welcome to Books and Beer. We are back at YellowHammer today. Thank you so much, YellowHammer Brewing, for hosting us again. Today we have a lovely Cranberry Mule beer. It's delicious. I will probably take some home. You should too. Anyway, we have 6 pairings for this beer, and I've decided I'm going to go first because I have a really hard book and I want to get it out of the way. And so Cranberry Mule. It's basically a beer version of a cocktail called a Moscow Mule. And Moscow Mules are typically served in copper cups, right? Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I can find a kid's book on like pennies, which we have a million books on pennies. And as I was searching for penny books, I came across Copper Sun by Sharon Draper, which is not about copper pennies at all. It's another Coretta Scott King award book. And it's listed as young adult, but to be honest, if a young adult is going to read this, they're going to need to be like an older young adult, or they're going to need an adult nearby to like have discussions about this book. It is about a young African girl whose tribe is basically wiped out. She is kidnapped and enslaved in the States, or it's not even the States, it's the colonies at the time, I think.
17th century?
Yeah, late 1700s.
Like 1700s.
So actually, it might be the States by that time, now that I really think about it. I have 2 history degrees. So it's about this girl. She's sold into slavery in, I want to say, South Carolina. It is graphic, the things that happen to her and the things that are detailed in this book, which is why I was saying it would be helpful for older youth to be reading this or have an adult they're comfortable with nearby to discuss the content happening in this book. That said, it's graphic, it's brutal. I had to take stops. Despite that, it was enjoyable in a very we understood this happened kind of way, and it's not terribly far off from history itself. So it's definitely historical fiction. Older youth, if you're going to read this as a young adult book, it is in YA fiction. But that's my hard book.
It's a good book.
It's surprisingly a good book, and like I said, Coretta Scott King doesn't give awards to bad books. It's a very well done book. It's hard.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very emotionally painful. So fair warning, good, but it takes a minute. I really love doing regional authors every now and then. I'm a Tennessee girl living in Alabama. I don't want to talk about football. But this is a Tennessee author, Lydia Peele. She wrote a book called The Midnight Cool, and The Midnight Cool is the name of a horse. You know, how horses in the races are always got these fancy names. This one's The Midnight Cool. But it's about these 2 hucksters who come into town in like northwestern Tennessee, and they get involved with this horse breeding family, and by the end of the book, they are breeding mules because they see it as the easy money option for selling mules to Europe during World War I. Tennessee was a huge provider, if not the leading provider of mules during that war in Europe. So, fun history fact of the day. I do have some mules. This is our Cranberry Mule, so I have some mule facts for my mule book. And I think you know some of this because you grew up on a farm, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually had mules.
Yeah. So mules are a crossbreed between usually male donkeys and usually female horses. The reverse of that is called a henny. So you got your hennies and you got your mules.
Yep.
Mules are largely sterile, so that's why it's such a big economic boost to breed in mules, because you're going to be one of the sole sources for this type of animal, which is why Tennessee became so good at it. They're like, we got this. We got a method. Here's all the mules, Europe. So yeah, and Tennessee actually has a really big Mule Day celebration. There's actually Mule Day celebration.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I used to live in Tennessee.
I did not know. In Columbia, Tennessee, they have a ginormous Mule Day celebration. There's a parade. There's like a mule queen. There's games. It's not happening this year for obvious reasons. But I found out in like doing some back just like refreshing on Mule Day. There's 2 Mule Day celebrations in Alabama.
Oh.
2. One is in looking at my nose, Winfield, and one is in Ider. And they're both kind of, I think, to the westish.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked at a map of Alabama today.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Mule Day.
Miss Mule Queen, I like
Miss
that.
Mule Queen. Yeehaw. Like, I love it. Tennessee has the best national weird animal days. I love it. And to round out, I have a cookbook. You have to understand how much restraint I have shown up until this point to only just now be pulling a cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's because this is very cranberry. It's very ginger.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew we had some ginger cookbooks. And one of them is A Spoonful of Ginger, Irresistible Health-Giving Recipes from Asian Kitchens by Nina Simonds. And what she does is actually talk about food philosophy and its health-giving properties. And she talks a lot about traditional Chinese medicine. So you have recipes, but you also have narratives, history of ingredients, photographs. And I was going to read you one of these like descriptions. This is from Chicken Satay.
Nice.
And she says that peanuts are looked upon fondly by Chinese mothers since they regulate blood, stimulate the spleen, and improve the appetite, and they're often given to children to promote tall sons. So I'm just like, okay, interesting. But you get like little tidbits of that throughout this entire book. It's like, how interesting.
I'm gonna go home and start feeding your son.
I was gonna start giving your son peanuts. But yeah, this is definitely not me espousing that you should go out and have an only ingredient medicine-based diet, because obviously there's good modern medicine for a reason. But it's a really interesting book if you're interested in a cookbook that kind of shows a different variety.
Well, just gives you like health tips too.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is why we put it in there for this. This is what this promotes.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and I think that's good for people like me who I do like to eat healthy. I don't know. I mean, what is better, walnuts or peanuts? I mean, I don't know.
Right. And
so that's
this,
really good.
I'm pretty sure she has a peanut chart or a nut chart in here.
I'm sure she does.
She definitely has a mushroom chart, which I was just like, oh, I didn't know there was this many kinds of mushrooms.
Yes.
But there we are. Those are my books. Got a hard subject, a fun subject. Both of these are historical fictions. I love historical fiction.
Mhm.
So the fact that I haven't brought up more in the course of this either is also kind of surprising. And then my very first cookbook.
Yeah.
Surely not going to be the
I
last.
think this is probably my second or third.
Is it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and I got another one for next year too. So. All right, so it's November now, and
Oh, yeah.
in our society, you're Team Pumpkin or Team Cranberry. Which one are you?
Pumpkin.
Oh, no.
Pumpkin.
I am not a pumpkin spice person. Team Cranberry all the way, which is why I was so excited when it was this beer that we chose. It's got a cranberry, lime, ginger taste to it. It's not very sweet. So it's really easy to drink. It's very light.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it greatly. And, you know, you can just sit and have a couple and not feel like you're drinking punch. You know,
Yeah.
it's a really nicely made drink. But yeah, the YellowHammer Cranberry Mule. I think this is the first year they're doing it.
Mhm.
I came down last week, filled the growler, took it home. Decided
You were so prepared for this episode.
I love cranberries, so I was like, I'm gonna figure out where this takes me. Now this book caught my eye long ago. I work on the second floor downtown with the nonfiction books, so I'm always surrounded by cookbooks, and there's so many I want to take home, and I can't. But yeah, so I finally had a reason to check this one out. I loved it. There was actually, now it's Pie Squared by Cathy Barrow. And it's not just sweet pies. Like it has savory pies, like chicken pot pie, a black bean pie. That she teaches you different crusts to use, different toppings to use. So it's really, you can just start mixing and matching after you read a couple recipes, because she have a section on this is the crust we use for this. This is the inside, you know, and so it's really neat. I enjoyed reading this one. They do have a pie called a cranberry slab pie. And she said you can either make your own cranberry sauce or use leftover cranberry sauce, which I thought would be great around the holidays. Some people have leftover cranberry sauce. We don't in our house because we eat it. My daughter and I fight over it. We love cranberry sauce. But if you do find that you tend to have extra, or you're at your in-laws and you bring home a lot of cranberry sauce, there's actually a recipe to use it.
There's a recipe for that.
I think they mix it with raspberries. So it does give a little more sweetness to it. Sounds like an amazing pie.
Wow.
But yeah, this just sounds like a great book to have around the holidays. A lot of different ideas for reusing just, leftover turkey or leftover, whatever. Just put it in one of these pies. But yeah, no, I just thought it was a great book to have this holiday season. Come check it out. Second floor.
You said fresh crust, and I'm just like, haha, or store-bought.
Or store-bought. I love pie. I'm a pie person, so I love making my own. All right, now this one, I showed Heather this before we started filming. This is within my top 10 favorite books of all time. If you've never read this book, even if you don't have children, find a child and read it to them. You will laugh more than the kids.
Find a child, any child.
Ask the parent first, read them. But no, I grew up not far from Huntsville, and we had horses and donkeys and mules. And so I was trying to think of something to go with them, the Cranberry Mule, and I was like, well, I could do a donkey book, kind of similar. This is a great book. All right, it came out, I think, early 2000s, something like that. And it was a hit. People liked it. But then, about 8-9 years ago, a Scottish grandmother was filmed. It was put on YouTube, her reading this to a grandchild. The thing went viral, and this became a bestseller like 8-9 years after it was published. So if you want to check this out before you go to the library and check out a copy, Google Scottish grandmother reading the Wonky donkey.
Just to be sold on the idea.
You will die. I showed it to everybody at work at circulation, and they wanted to go get that for all their nieces and nephews this holiday. Like, this is the book. We have 15 copies in our library. So if you just want to check one out and read it first, we will have plenty. But yeah, definitely don't drink while reading this, because you're just going to be laughing the whole time. It's a great book.
I was laughing without drinking.
But definitely afterwards, have yourself a Cranberry Mule, because it's great. But no, I love this book.
That would be a great reading challenge. Drink a beer and then try to read this book.
I can't. Now, I will say, one of my daughter's friends, back when they were in first grade, she was having difficulties reading. And her mama said she doesn't really like reading. So they were in my daughter's room one day, and I said, well, why don't you guys take turns reading books to each other? And Evelyn, my daughter, got this one out. They fought over who was going to read it. After the first time read it, I think they read it like 6 times sitting on the bed.
Awesome.
They had so much fun reading this book. So, I mean, it really is. I can't stress it enough as a mom. This is something that I would add to your kids' library. All right, this last book I chose because if you drink this beer, it just has a very, festive holiday kind of taste to it. With the cranberries, a little hint of lime, a little bit of bubbly to it, and you can really just sit casually and enjoy it. And so I decided to go with something very wintry in the mood of the holidays. This is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. The guest list I reviewed last month, the Irish Wedding. This one takes place in Scotland, and it is wonderful. It is a murder mystery Vienna house party. A group of friends from Oxford get together every holiday, and they end up getting snowed in.
Of course. This is where The Shining comes in, and
and you start seeing a lot more resentment and secrets between the group. They've been friends for a very long time, and they're married now, and they're all settled. But of course, one morning, someone is found dead, and somebody is a murderer.
of course.
And so it's a really neat book. I actually read it in a day, and I mean it's pretty decent size, but it reads fast. So if you just want something to read, if you have a free weekend coming up and you're going somewhere, take that with you. It's great.
What was it called again?
It's called The Hunting Party.
Okay.
And I just I didn't really think I'd be as into it. I knew I'd like it because I liked the first one, but this one actually didn't get as good as reviews as the first one, and it shocked me because I actually liked it just as much, and I didn't think it was predictable. Like reading the first one, it didn't help you predict this one anymore. So I would think this was a nice little holiday refreshing. It's great.
A snowed-in drink.
A snowed-in drink.
And then you chase that one with your donkey book.
There. This is a great way to talk to kids. But no, but yeah, definitely come by and check out the Moscow Mule, the
Cranberry Mule.
Thank you.
It's a flavored Moscow Mule cocktail beer.
Yes, yummy. Super yummy.
Really yummy things. Anyway, that's our books for this time. Be sure to subscribe to the library's YouTube channel and catch all the other great shows that we have. And thank you one more time to YellowHammer Brewing.